Welcome back to the latest episode of Taking Charge of My Cancer podcast. And I have a great guest today. This is Deborah Enos. She was living her best life. She was the one on air healthy living expert at Q13 Fox News in Seattle and traveled nationwide as a professional wellness speaker. She was married to the man of her dreams and went into her yearly mammogram, but she got a call back that she needed to go in for a biopsy. And just like that, her life changed forever. She was diagnosed with breast cancer on September 1st, 2020. She's a certified nutritionist who ran half marathons, did yoga, ate mainly organic, and she was even an early adopter of not wearing deodorants with aluminum. So, how could this possible happen to her? She needed answers and asked every oncologist why did she get cancer. No one had a good answer for her other than, you have breast. She searched for answers and that's why she started her podcast called Why Did I Get Cancer? This is a podcast that she wished she had listened to years ago. She started this podcast to educate and protect people from going through what she did. So again, Deborah, thank you so much for being part of the show.
Durley, I'm so excited to be here.
That's excellent. So if we can take us back to your diagnosis, what was going on in your life at that time and how did it reshape your relation with nutrition and wellness? If you're, you look, I mentioned before, super healthy nutritionist and doing the right, like what we think is the right things to do.
Right. And that was where my confusion, I had so much confusion after being diagnosed because I thought I was doing all the right things.
Mhm.
I was a college educated with multiple certifications, nutritionist with health science degree, exercise physiology. I I was the queen of self-care. I got regular massages. I went for walks. I took really good care of myself. So I really felt like I had a great relationship with food. I felt like I had a great relationship with taking care of myself. So yeah, this news really brought me to my knees, and it also made me think, what the heck? Like, what else could I have done
Mhm.
to prevent getting a breast cancer diagnosis? So it did change my relationship with food. I realized there were some areas that I could make changes. And there were other areas. So I wouldn't say it was just food for me.
Mhm.
It was learning how to live more of a detox life,
Okay.
non-toxic lifestyle. I was still wearing, like the cutest exercise clothes I could get, which are made with plastic. And
Okay.
we all know that microplastics are an endocrine system disruptor, which means it's going to mess up your hormones. Once your hormones are messed up, it's a cascade of other things getting messed up. So there was a lot of areas that I changed.
Okay. And then at what point did you realize you wanted to turn your journey into a podcast and that how that impact has sharing your story and your own healing?
hmm Well, I will tell you, um, being a podcast host was never on my radar. This was 5 years ago, and podcasts, of course, have been out for what, 10 years, I think, maybe probably longer if you were, OG. And I listened to them, but I never thought of myself like who would want to listen to me, go on and on every week. But after my cancer diagnosis, I was really looking for answers as to how somebody like me
Mhm.
could get a diagnosis. And I had some friends who worked they were some of the anchors that I worked with at the local Fox News here in Seattle. And they said, if you got diagnosed with cancer, what hope is there for the rest of us? And I thought, wow,
That's
that
it.
that's a really horrible question and a legitimate question
Yep.
all at the same time. So I said, okay, well, let's figure this out. And I was really angry for the first couple of weeks of my diagnosis, and I was mad at God, and I was mad at the world, and I was mad at my oncologist. And then I realized I can't do this. I can't do this cancer journey without God. And I was just on my knees one day. And I was just like, okay, Lord, I go on TV. I'm telling him like he doesn't know my life. I go on TV and I tell people how to avoid diabetes and high cholesterol and heart attacks and cancer. Who's going to listen to me now?
Hmm.
And I felt this still small voice inside say, go look up the website. Why did I get cancer? And I thought, well, that's a good idea. I've asked every oncologist, like, why did I get cancer? And I went and I Googled it, and the website was still available. So I thought, why is this? How could this be still available? And then I realized, okay, I'm supposed to turn this season into a blessing.
Okay.
And the more I thought about it, I thought, okay, I think I'm supposed to start a podcast. And that's a year after, just about a year after my diagnosis, I started this podcast. Why did I get cancer?
That's an amazing story. Sometimes things happen for a reason, and we don't know what reasons are those.
It's so true.
And imagine like your life, if that did not happen to you, imagine what maybe your life will be now versus what,
Right,
right?
right. It's so true. I know. So I feel like I'm on this mission to help other people avoid, because I won't say I made all the right decisions. Who does make all the right decisions during a treatment of a disease or an illness? And there's things I wish I hadn't done. There's more questions I wish I would have asked. So I now get an opportunity to talk to people about that and say, hey, it's okay to get a second opinion. It's okay to pump the brakes over here. So it's such a blessing to me now to be able to pass along some of those hard fought battles to
Uh,
other people.
So many women feel really overwhelmed by conflicting nutrition advice after diagnosis. I'm sure you felt that way and you're an expert on it.
Definitely.
So what were the first realistic food changes you made that actually help you feel better going through any treatments?
Hmm. Durley, that's a great question. And I have to say, I don't have a good answer because when you're in treatment, you just eat what feels good.
Right?
So for me, comfort food is either soup or a baked potato with butter and bacon, pieces of bacon and sour cream. So like I kind of ran the gamut of, okay, I'm just going to do bone broth, for my recovery and this and that and microgreens. And then I was just like, no, just give me a baked potato and a chocolate chip cookie. So that I'm just being
No,
very,
absolutely.
very real with you.
Yeah.
And I would say that I didn't really dramatically change my diet until probably a year into the podcast.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is I always had eaten a lot of vegetables, but I would say, and I always tried to focus on organic, but I think the quality of my choices could have been better. So, I'd have a salad and think, check that box. Okay, but were there any cruciferous vegetables in there? Were there any, heavy lycopene things like tomatoes, pomegranate arils, like different things in there. So I could have had I believe, a wider variety of produce. And I feel like that is going to have more of a protective benefit. So I have made a lot of changes. Every week when I go to the store, I try to buy one new piece of produce that I haven't tried before.
Nice. That's very good.
I'm trying to really expand the things that I eat because I think it's just a typical, you know, busy working person default. You go to the store and you buy the same, 12, maybe 12 items. And so I was in that habit and I thought, okay, I need to shake things up. I do need more cruciferous vegetables. So that's your cabbage and your cauliflower and your broccoli family. But I also needed to add in microgreens, which has sulforaphane, which is well researched in studies showing its impact specifically in breast cancer prevention, but all of the cancers. So adding things in like that, I feel, you don't see an immediate impact. but I feel like long term, I am a better eater today than I was 5 years ago.
Absolutely, absolutely. And how did you approach to eating shift during treatment? Where there are specific foods or habits that support your energy? I know that you mentioned, comfort food, which I get you, right? If you have like
Mhm.
no appetite, you need to be able to have some food in you. But if you were okay, like if you feel like, okay, I really need to, I'm choosing this comfort food because it's just easy versus
Mhm.
making another change. But if you was anything in particular, you will advise patients now to maybe shift to help a little bit
Mhm.
during this.
Yeah, that is that. Yeah, I really enjoyed, doing lots of the bone broths where, they're very they're cooked and they're very dense. I did eat a lot of soups. Um, my battle was in the middle of the winter, so normally I would, I'm a big fan of smoothies where you can just kind of throw the kitchen sink in there and just really power pack it. But, in the winter, it's hard for me to focus on those colder foods. So for me, it was warm and savory foods because again, I was battling this in the middle of winter. So lots of stir fries. And I would highly emphasize, staying really focused on whole foods, meaning those great cruciferous vegetables, which also during treatment, if you're on taking pain meds, post surgery, going, to the bathroom can be really challenging.
Mhm.
So making sure you're staying very hydrated and you're getting enough fiber every day can really really can make quite the difference.
So, what type of nutrition myths do you hear the most in the breast cancer community? And what is the truth behind them, right? You hear so many myths, and
Hmm.
based on your experience as a patient and 5 years doing the podcast and interviewing amazing people, what have you been learned that has been definitely make like a wow, I didn't realize this. This is a highlight.
Yeah, I think probably one of the biggest foods, although I wouldn't call it a food, to come to light from a research perspective in the last 6 months to a year is alcohol. And, alcohol has really been made to seem like it's okay.
Mhm.
And, 10 years ago, we would tell people, you know, red wine is great. It's got resveratrol. It's this, it's that. It's good for your heart. And what we're finding today is that we can't even say, Durley, you can have a drink every day and it's perfectly fine and it's perfectly safe. Because what we know now is that a drink a day increases a woman's risk of breast cancer. And I'm pulling this from memory, but I think it's about 5 to 7% increase in a drink per day.
Wow.
So if there's one way I have really changed and modified my lifestyle is that I rarely drink. I'm not saying I never have a glass of wine or a cocktail, but where it used to be kind of an easy default for me, I fly a lot. And so I hop on the plane and, oh, sure, I'll have a glass of wine and, it helps me calm down or whatever it is that it's doing. I have to find a new way to calm down.
Okay.
And I also had to find a new way to socialize with friends.
Mhm.
And it's okay to have new and fresh boundaries
Yeah.
around food and people and beverages and all of those things. But I have to tell you, I was shocked when this research, again, I think it was about a year ago, came out about the impact of alcohol
Wow.
and that truly, like, basically no amount is safe. So what I do now, I really rethink my drink. I still like a festive drink, but I might do, like a sparkling cider with some sort of aromatic, like, piece of rosemary and some cranberry and, just make it festive because I think what I was missing was the festive aspect
Okay.
and the feeling like, well, you're having something, I want something. Well, I don't need to have alcohol. And so that's probably been the biggest change for me.
Okay, very good. Do you notice in your body better since you actually stopped drinking? Do you what?
Yes, I would say the old me probably would have a glass of wine after work, maybe 3 or 4 days a week.
Okay,
But for me, it really impacted my sleep.
okay.
So after my breast cancer diagnosis, I had to go off of all hormones, which basically meant, okay, here comes hot flashes, brain fog, no sleeping, all of those things. And I realized if I had a glass of red wine within even like 3 hours of going to bed, I would be I would be on fire
Oh wow.
for the next 3 hours when I got into bed. So I just thought, oh my gosh, my sleep is already messed up. Do I want to add literally more flame to the fire? And I didn't. So I just realized, if I really want, like, let's say I'm on vacation, I might have a glass of wine at lunch, but I really can't have any alcohol after 4 or 5 o'clock because it does really impact my sleep. And there is wonderful research on that to back that up.
Yes, I have heard that. For someone just diagnosed, what is one evidence-based nutrition principle you wish more people understood besides alcohol?
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, this is gonna surprise you.
Uh-huh. I'm ready.
Okay, forgiveness.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Yeah. So there was, I think it was a 2003 study at Duke University. And what they found is that people who had let's just call it a more forgiving nature
Mhm.
and didn't hang on to stuff, didn't hold grudges, all of those things, they had lower levels of inflammation in their body.
Mhm.
That's shocking to
Wow.
think about. Inflammation is kind of the root of all evil, right? Inflammation causes joint pain, heart disease, diabetes,
Yeah.
Alzheimer's, cancer. Like inflammation is truly the enemy
Mhm.
that we're battling all the time. So this study is telling me that if I forgive somebody, I can actually be a little healthier.
Mhm.
So I'm sure you were expecting more of a food answer,
Well, that's really a great answer. So let me ask
but
you, sorry, let me ask you this. So you come from being super healthy, like we talked about from the beginning, right? You have a relationship with food, wellness and taking care of yourself. Do you think that aspect make part of your possible diagnosis?
yes, yes. So I think that as women, I'll just make it more about me. I've been in the health field for 30 years.
Mhm.
So I am a natural caregiver where I want people to be healthy and I want this and I want that and I want to teach you how to, pick the right fruits from the farmer's market and the grocery store and all of that. And what I realized throughout my career working with many hundreds of clients, I often wanted those results for them more than they wanted those results for themselves.
Mhm.
And that can harbor some unforgiveness inside of you. It can make you resentful. So I interviewed a really interesting gal on my podcast, and she was an oncologist. And she said, when women came in and they were like too accommodating, and they were coming in as an oncology patient, too accommodating, overly nice, didn't have boundaries, they knew she would be really, really sick. And so as women, we have to be careful of our boundaries, what we're willing to give, which is against what we're willing to receive.
Mhm.
and truly make sure that we are walking in forgiveness and not in resentment because those feelings do have to go somewhere. It's not like you're just going to be really mad at, your child or somebody who cut you off in traffic or your spouse or whatever. And then it's just going to disappear and those feelings are just going to fly away. No, we actually kind of need to process them. Maybe you write in your journal, or in my case, I actually forgive people, and I usually do it when I'm at the gym, and I'll say, I forgive you, so and so. I forgive you, and I release you to the Holy Spirit. I forgive you. And everybody has their own process when it comes to forgiveness. Um, but we really need to do it, and we really need to move that stuff out of our bodies.
That's a great advice. That's yeah, you're right. Surprise me, but great advice. Surprise me in the way that I have heard about it and I have heard how stress is part of it and it's such a huge inflammatory condition that I come
Yes.
across a lot of, in my position, I'm a physical therapist and I see cancer patients all the time, the majority
Mhm.
breast cancer, and I hear
Mhm.
that, right? Like young woman doing great, healthy,
Mhm.
same story, and it's like, why did I get with this aggressive cancer? And it's the
Right.
stress level they manage.
It's the stress levels. And it was interesting. I was scrolling on Instagram last night. And do you know who Dave Asprey is? He started Bulletproof Coffee and he's like the, Mr. Biohacker. And I saw a quote and he said that forgiveness is the ultimate biohack.
Hmm.
And I thought, huh, well, that is true. In my case,
Mhm.
that is true.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if for somebody or what do you tell women who struggle with appetite changes, state changes, or nausea during treatment?
So appetite changes during treatment. I really like to let your body be your guide.
Okay.
And I did lose weight. I did lose weight during my all my surgeries that I went through, for various reasons, from, just being at the hospital so much to, maybe having a little depression that you're battling through, to just like, your body is busy healing.
Mhm.
So it's not usually hungry. And so I had no problem just kind of pumping the brakes on big meals. Your body doesn't really want a big meal
Mhm.
when you're in the middle of something like that. So I did find some, protein drinks that I really liked.
Mhm.
Again, I focused on very nutrient dense soups.
Yep.
Um, trying to get as much fiber as possible because that's going to help just get
Mhm.
the junk out. And I was very picky about what I put into my body, and I was very careful about sugar and anything processed.
Okay. Very good. And how did nutrition help you emotionally during treatment? Did your food play a role in grounding, comfort, or empowerment?
I would say the only thing that food did during that time was comfort me.
Okay.
And I'll go back to that, baked potato. I had lots of friends who did, meal trains for me. There was food arriving on my door every couple of days, and I'm so grateful for it. And I'll also say that my husband and my mom, because my mom had flown up to help take care of me, my mom and my husband enjoyed it very much, but I just wasn't eating a whole lot during that time. But I will say, if you're thinking about taking a meal to somebody, please still do that because I cook 99% of our meals in this house. So the fact that I could just rest
Yeah,
and not have to think, oh, I gotta get up and put dinner on the table. It was such a relief to me to have such good friends and
right.
family who sent me meals and I just didn't, it just was one less thing I had to worry about.
That's a very good point because sometimes people is more let me know how can I help versus don't ask, right? Because more likely as a patient, you don't want to be bother people. And I'll feel weird telling them, "We just send me food so I don't have to cook," right? So I think that's for the audience out there who you are having a relative or a friend going through this and you want to help, don't ask them
Don't
what
ask.
help you need. Just start something like that. Just like, you know what, I'm just gonna drop this, and if you like it, great. If you want to throw it away, great. But
Yeah.
delete it or whatever needs to be happening. So
Yeah. Or yeah, I could have, I mean, there were meals I just ended up freezing.
yeah,
And I thought, well, I'll have this in a couple of weeks when, my appetite returns.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And
Uh,
you mentioned something, if I can just
yeah,
jump in here on this. You said just show up, don't ask.
yeah,
And I couldn't agree with you more because when you say to somebody, oh, you just got diagnosed with breast cancer, let me know if I can help. I'm not going to let you know.
yeah,
I'm so overwhelmed. But if you say to me, I'm bringing you a meal on Tuesday and the following Friday, Kim's going to do this day, Patty's going to do this day, and I'll take you to your radiation appointment in 2 weeks. And you just tell them, I'm going to help you and I'm going to help you on these days. If you don't want me, that's okay. But here's what I'm doing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And if they still say no, then just drop off flowers.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
that's a good idea. But I think I hear that more because some people is really good about open themselves and say they need that help. But I think that most of us, doesn't matter if you're going through cancer or any other situation, where things are not going your way, again, you're just gonna close up. You just have to just do it.
Right. Plus, you're also so busy. I just felt like once I got that diagnosis, I felt like I was at the hospital 2 or 3 days a week for appointments. So, my list of return calls and text messages I needed to return was very long.
Mhm.
And so I was so grateful when I would come home from the hospital and there would just be food outside.
Yeah.
It was like, thank you so much. I love my friends,
Yes.
love my family. Yeah.
Great. So you interviewed so many voices in cancer and wellness. What is one conversation that changed your perspective or taught you something new? And I know we learn every time I interview somebody, I'm
Mhm.
always learning something new, no matter if you're a wellness expert or you're a patient or you are a caregiver. But what has been one conversation that definitely impacted you? And I know
Oh
it's
my.
hard because you've been doing this for 5 years, so it's many.
I have, yes. Well, I might have a couple. So I'll just say back in the early days of podcasting, a conversation I had with Dr. Lee Aaron Keneally from the Cancer Care Center in Orange County, California. And this is way before people were talking about microplastics. And she said that the average person ingests a credit card size of microplastics every day. Every day we ingest that. And I was shocked. And I got to tell you, at that time, I still probably once a day would grab a water bottle, a plastic water bottle.
Mhm,
I'd be in an event or I'd be on an airplane or whatever. That changed me.
mhm.
And I see you're drinking out of your stainless steel. I carry a stainless steel with me everywhere I go. I was in Europe in September. I took one with me. There's water refill stations everywhere. And that changed me because I know that plastics in your body, first of all, they're not supposed to be in your body, but they are in our body. And we can slow down how many we're putting in each day. Now, we can't do a lot about inhaled plastics because people are burning stuff, because we have air pollution. But I have an air doctor in my house, air purifier. I can stop drinking out of, plastic water bottles. I can be a little more discerning. Like when I go to the supermarket, I don't put all my produce in plastic bags anymore. I bring my own bags or I just put them in the cart and then put them in my paper bags or my canvas bags that I bring with me. So that one was really shocking to me. That one really changed my perspective. And then I would say another one that was really impactful was Dr. Josh Axe. He was on my podcast maybe a year and a half ago, and we were talking about mindset. And we were talking about the neuroplasticity of the brain, which is basically, just let's just call it you're regenerating your brain, which means you're laying down new neural pathways. You're learning to think differently. And we had such an interesting conversation because due to maybe like I'll just say like a botched surgical procedure, he was flat on his back for almost a year, never thought he was going to walk again. He had two young children. It was really a big deal. And he said, I had to change the way I thought. And I had to basically think myself better and think myself into a healthier state of mind. And that really made an impact. And I've had numerous other podcast guests, talk about, when you look in the mirror and you're battling something, what are you saying to yourself? Because all of your cells are always listening.
Mhm.
So if I look in the mirror and I think, wow, honey, you're looking really tired today. No wonder XYZ isn't going well in your life. And I start to do the negative spiral. My body's always listening. My brain's always listening. And if I want to be a high achiever in life, I have to change my mindset.
I really like that. So I think that, you should just, even if you feel that way, like, oh my God, you look awesome today.
Yeah, I do that. And I've been sick for, honestly, this is like day 13. You can probably hear it in my voice. And for the last 13 days, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I feel terrible. About 5 days ago, I'm like, what are you doing, girl? So then I just started saying, I'm getting better every day. My cells are regenerating. My throat doesn't hurt anymore. And I just started prophesying over myself. I am feeling better.
And you are feeling better.
And I'm feeling better. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, that is totally true. Sometimes without thinking what you just mentioned, I've been kind of telling patients like sometimes, they come in and it's like overwhelmed, right? For you just have a diagnosis, or you just have surgery and you have an infection and one surgery after other, and then your husband end up in trouble and whatever. And then I always say to them, it's like, you gotta start looking a little bit one day at a time and see what is brighter today that wasn't brighter yesterday.
It's so true.
Seeing the darkness every single time. And you cannot think
Yeah.
how you were, who you were
Hmm.
a week ago versus who you are now, and like why
Hmm.
I was not the way I was before my cancer diagnosis or any diagnosis versus now. It's just looking to how you feel today versus yesterday or the
That's
day.
right.
And if you start notice every day is different, every day is better, every day you have a little bit more energy, that's a
Hmm.
positive thing.
It's
Otherwise,
such a positive thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's amazing how that really make a difference. And
Hmm.
it's funny because I learning through you guys this, right? Like locally, I have not been going through any cancer diagnosis, but like I say, I've been doing this for 17 years now, working with oncology, and I just feel like I'm part of you guys' life, right? So it's
Hmm.
like you see this in and out, you having this like forever friendships and patients that, kind of like we have the opportunity to spend this time with them. So I have
Yep.
it's great that I get to spend 45 minutes to an hour time with each patient, which we
Hmm.
then become right beyond a physical therapist and a patient. It's like they get to tell me things. They get to actually
Right.
trust me even more than their physicians. We get to find
Hmm.
things that I'm the one who's like, I think something is going on here. Let's reach out to your physician and get this going. Or
Hmm.
something else may be happening. And again, you're just learning that you just have to see life a little bit brighter every day, no matter what you're going through.
Yeah, it's so true. It's really good advice. And it's simple, right? It just every day, like just be grateful for something. And every day for most of us, things are, like if you're sick and you're healing, you're getting a little bit better every day. You may not be able to always notice it,
Yeah.
but your body is healing. Your body wants to heal.
Mhm. Yeah. What topics do you feel still aren't being talked about enough in the cancer nutrition world?
Hmm. Yes. I would probably say the toxic world we live in, that is not That's not talked about very often. And I think about, some of the things that I really get on my soapbox about, which are going to be, synthetic fragrances, all those very perfumey candles and the diffusers and all of that stuff. All of those are known endocrine system disruptors. The clothing that we wear, I've become so picky now when it comes to what I'm putting onto my body. Um, it's, it's not fun to go clothes shopping with me anymore. And I had a podcast guest on a few months ago, and she's known as the clean clothing chick. And
Oh,
it's not clean washing the clothes, it's clean, like a clean label.
yeah.
And she said, I ruined shopping for people. And I'm like, yeah, you pretty much have ruined me for shopping. But now when I go shopping and maybe I want to get a new sweater for winter. I'm very picky, and so instead of buying four acrylic polyester blend sweaters, now I get one cashmere sweater or like a cashmere cotton or cashmere wool, and one sweater versus the four. It's about the same price. I'm only getting one sweater instead of the four, which means I'm consuming less. I've got more closet space. You know what I mean? I get like I just I'm very picky about what goes onto my body because I know that whatever is connecting with my skin is going into my body. Your skin is a sponge,
Mhm.
so it will absorb whatever you put on it. So that goes the same for cosmetics and lotions and shampoos. Read your labels. Read your labels. You want as clean a product without the phthalates and the BPAs, and you want as clean of a product as you possibly can. And if there were two areas that I wish I could go back and just take a magic wand and fix, I would say it's what I'm sleeping in, meaning not only my pajamas, but also my sheets, making sure that they are 100% cotton, um, or maybe like a silk type of a pajama versus, again, the plastic stuff, which is going to be the polyesters and things like that. And then I would say the workout clothes. So when I work out now, I do not wear the really cute stuff from the mall. I wear really cute stuff and I don't have as much as I used to, but they're healthier woven fabrics and they're not made of plastic.
It's when I start hearing more and more about, environmental, and when you just mentioned it, I felt overwhelmed because I didn't know where to start. So
Mhm.
it's like, holy cow. So where do I go and look and see what products are the good products or not? Number one. Number two, do I spend all this money on makeup or skin products? And do I want to just throw them away or it should just like finish up? And as I'm finished something up and start to the new one I
Mhm.
buy being more mindful of those things, right? And,
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
hard for me to kind of like, what do I do? So I was like, I was start driving myself nuts. And I'm like, wait,
Mhm.
I cannot change every single thing I do
Right.
because then I won't just live right. I won't just go places. I won't do. So I was have to go back and it's like, let's just start for the simple things. Like I start with
Mhm.
the water bottles.
Mhm.
Let's do that to begin with.
Right. Start small. Just, I think what happens, we can get into that analysis paralysis where we're reading all the studies, we're reading the data, and we're just thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. I'll just, I'm just going to keep it the way it is.
Yeah.
So we don't want that. But what we want is pick a place. And so for me, it was workout clothing because I work out 5 days a week.
Oh,
So
so so
I
do I.
started with workout clothing and
Okay.
I made sure that I'm in really, good organic, hopefully cotton kinds of items,
Okay.
especially sports bras, because you have to think about the more flexible the fabric and the more stretchy the fabric, the more plastic is in it.
Okay.
So being cautious of that. And I'm happy to make some suggestions
I was like, gonna
for
say,
your show
yes,
notes.
perfect,
Yes.
perfect. Yes.
And then so again, for me, I started with workout clothing and the sheets on my bed.
Okay.
And I just started small because it's expensive to make these changes. And
Absolutely.
so when it comes to clothing, I actually love secondhand stores
Okay.
and vintage stores. And I've picked up some great, cool t-shirts from the 1970s where they were just cotton. I don't even care if it's organic cotton because back then things were just different and cotton wasn't as sprayed as it is today. So just even hitting a secondhand store, you will find some really cool items that are probably going to be pretty good for your skin.
Okay. Perfect. What message of hope of empowerment do you want survivors and thrivers today?
Yeah. I would say that persevering, because there is a blessing on the other side of this, even though sometimes the blessing is hard to see. When you're in the middle of pain and disruption of your life, and you don't know what that blessing is going to look like. And for me, the blessing was I can pass my story on to other people. And so maybe they could be more protected so they wouldn't end up in the same boat that I was in. So I would just say persevering. Uh, and again, that there is something really good for you on the other side of a diagnosis. And that's where faith comes in.
That's amazing. That has been such an amazing conversation, Deborah. I really appreciate. I can really pick your brain for another hour if you let me. I gotta be respectful of your time. And again, thank you again for all the great information. Thank you for all you do for the patients, the audience, the people out there in general.
Hmm.
Like I mentioned before we start the recording, following you and listen to your podcast and has been amazing information. So
Oh, thank you. It was wonderful to be on your podcast, Darlie. Thank you.
thank you so much. So you take care and have a great evening.
You too.